Hi, it's Amber from Orange Olive Road. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. In today's video, we're going to be making baby love bugs. Let's talk materials. I'm going to use a 22 needle knitting machine and some Pipsqueak yarn in this particular video. So this one is made by Yarn Inspirations. You can see here on the back it's a size 5, but it's still pretty thin and it goes through my machine really well. I also have this Pipsqueak stripes, and what I love about this is that it's several different colors in one. So there's 3, 4, and 5 different colors. So one skein will actually give us quite a few love bugs. So again, goes in my machine nicely. Then you're going to need a little bit of worsted yarn to cast on, some fiber fill to stuff it, some scissors, of course your yarn needles, and then these are optional, but I cut these hearts from my Cricut, so you can put pom-poms or those at the top of your antennae. Speaking of antennae, you're going to need some pipe cleaners just like this, small pieces. And then these are hearts that I actually have a tutorial for here on my channel. That one's made with the 40 pin, and these are made with the 22 needle knitting machine. So you'll need some of those. Then I'm going to use safety eyes in this particular video. This is a set that I bought on Amazon. I'll put the link below, but it's from Panda Haul and it comes in a bunch of different sizes. Okay, so something's really small all the way up to a much larger size. So again, it gives you lots of options to decide what you want to do. Then I'm actually going to use this punch right here. This is a leather punch, and I'm going to use it to punch a hole in and through my felt heart. And I do that just like this, and I'll show you more when we get later on into the video, but I'm going to use it to poke through those eyes. Okay, all right, let's get started. Now to begin, I'm actually going to cast on with a little bit of worsted yarn. So I'm going to go back and forth with a standard or provisional cast on. So just like this, we're going to go all the way around. The reason why I do this is because when I want to pull the starting row for the Pipsqueak, it actually helps to be able to use worsted weight yarn like this, because when I go to yank on it, the Pipsqueak sometimes will actually end up breaking, and then I've got a mess. So I'm just going to do one row, right? Well, technically it's going to be 2, the cast on row plus, right, that first row. So you should have 2 on your counter right now. So I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to switch to the Pipsqueak yarn. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail, right? Go ahead and put it into the yarn guide. And now that first row, I'm going to go around gently just to make sure that the yarn isn't splitting. Sometimes the Addy 22s, they do this. And then right here, what I like to do is, because it's such a little bit of yarn for that worsted part, I'll go ahead and create a permanent knot right here. Now I'm not going to do it super tight, but secure enough, right? So later on it won't be a problem, you know, knowing which one I'm going to be pulling versus which one needs to be connected to the Pipsqueak. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knit 20 rows. Okay, so when you're done, your row counter should say 22 when it's time to cast off. Okay, so go ahead and keep knitting just like this. Okay, so now that we're getting closer to the end, it's time to cast off. So go ahead and use your scissors to cut a little bit of a tail just like this. And we are going to thread our tapered needles so it's easier to take off of the loom. All right, so go ahead and open your yarn guide. Make sure that your yarn is in front of that last white needle. You're going to go ahead and crank around gently, and then you're going to start picking up stitches with that yarn needle just like this. Okay, so the Pipsqueak doesn't have a lot of elasticity, so you need to go through each one of them just like this until you have a few onto your needle, and then you can pick them up more or less like this. Okay, so when you come down to the end, you just want to make sure, right, that you go gently so you don't lose those stitches. These are harder to pick up. Okay, so that next to the last stitch, and I think I've mentioned this in a previous video, but sometimes this last stitch right here likes to creep up, so I have to go over it and then pull it over the needle. Okay, Now we're done with our loom. We're done with our loom, so now let's work on assembly. So one thing I want to bring to your attention is that this is actually the right side. So when you're using some types of yarn, sometimes the nice side is the inside. So let's start by giving our work a stretch, just like this. Okay, do this all the way around. And now we're going to organize our strands and start pulling the worsted yarn closed. So I'm going to get my ends real tighty and I'm going to start pulling it closed, just like this. Okay, so you can see a little bit there, but that is okay. So keep adjusting. That's the wrong one. Let's pull the right one. And then we're going to go ahead and secure it with a box knot or a surgeon's knot. Right, so this part will be all on the inside, so you won't see it. So you don't have to worry about trimming ends or anything like that. In fact, what I do is I just take it and wrap it around my fingers just like this, right, and adds a little bit of stuffing. All right, so again, you can kind of see those stitches just a little bit there, but that is okay. That's going to face the bottom. Okay, so you can see right here, you wouldn't be able to see it, so don't worry. Okay, so if you use some pink yarn, you may not be able to see those stitches, but again, not real noticeable. So now we're going to go ahead and get ready to stuff. So now I have my poly fiber. I'm going to kind of smush it up into a little bit of a ball and start stuffing my work. Okay, I'm going to pull it just a little bit like this. Again, Pipsqueak yarn can break easily, so do this part gently. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and keep rolling it in my hands until it forms that perfect circle, or at least as close to it as possible, right? And I want to show you that there is a size comparison, right? So this is worsted weight yarn. It's actually even more rows, but if you overstuff it, right, you'll be able to see the stuffing through even both layers, and we don't want that. But even looking at these side by side, you can see that the Pipsqueak, even though it feels like a thin yarn, it's a size 5, and so it has a lot of elasticity to it. Okay, so again, you want to remember, don't overstuff. Okay, so just enough. Now I have a heart here that I made on the 22 pin machine, and I'm going to use that as my base. I have some felt shapes here that I'm going to use for the backs of my eyes, and I'm actually going to use one of these leather, I guess you could say, I don't know if they're leather hole punchers or leather press. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm actually looking to see what size I'm going to use. If you've never used one of these, they're actually pretty cool. They're not that expensive, and I've actually used them for paper, which is not what you're supposed to do. But what I'm doing is I'm looking for a hole that is going to be big enough for this stem, right, of that safety eye to pass through. Okay, so that's about the size that I want. So now I'm going to take my piece of felt and find the center as much as possible. And now I'm going to press down. Okay, so I've made that impression right there in the center. So now I'm going to take this needle and just kind of poke it all the way through. Just like this. Okay. I'm going to kind of pull it off just a little bit so you can see what that looks like. I need to actually sharpen my leather press. I've had it for so long. So, but there's the hole right there. You can see it. And it is wide enough for my kawaii safety eye to pass through, just like that, without puckering the felt. So I've got one, and I'm going to do the other. So now that I have both my eyes ready, now I need to figure out where I'm going to place the eye. So that's the bottom, and that's my top center. So let me roll it out just a little bit more for that circle. And now I'm going to push my eye in just like this. It's not secure yet, but again, just kind of looking to see if this is where I want them to go. And so I'm gonna kind of measure a little bit apart, kind of twist, right, a little bit to kind of give some shape and personality. And let's see, that looks about right. Okay, yeah, so that's a good distance apart. The worsted weight one, that's the purple one, I put the eyes a little bit too close together. So now I have the backs of the safety eyes, and I'm going to secure the eye. So this is actually a great place if you decide that you want to use a rattle insert, this would be the time that I would add that. And so what that rattle insert is, you can buy them from Amazon. They're small little plastic little tubes, and you can put them inside, and then that way when you shake it, they rattle. Okay, so yep, pretty happy with my eyes there. So now I'm going to go ahead and close up the top with my needle. So I'm going to make just a small knot at the top. Again, it's kind of nice because Pipsqueak is furry. You can do quite a bit of work and you won't really be able to see, small knots and things like that. So the yarn is pretty, forgiving that way, which is nice. So then I'm going to go ahead and put in my loose end like this, just a little bit. And now I'm going to trim that end like that. Give it another fluff, and we're ready to attach this base like this. Now when you're doing this, you have a couple of options. So, but I'm gonna situate it on there. It looks pretty good. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and make the antennae. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is put a little bit of hot glue, not too much. And then I'm going to put one piece of my pipe cleaner there into the glue, and then take the other piece and cover the heart. Right, so this will secure the the felt to the pipe cleaner, just like that. Okay, and then we'll set it aside and let it dry. And then we will do the same thing for our other one. So not too much glue here, enough to keep it secure and closed, but if you put too much, it'll kind of spill out the side and look a bit messy. Okay. So now that we've got those done, like I mentioned before, you have two choices, right, about how you want to secure this. So that is the base, that's the heart. I like to actually, have those feet kind of tilted upwards. So I put the heart right side up. Okay, and so you can see the feet kind of go upwards a little bit like that, and I like that shape better than the other direction. Now again, those two choices. So you can secure the love bug body, right, to the feet by sewing it, right, or you can add glue to the center and set it on top there. These are acrylic yarns that we're working through, and so once you add that hot glue, it melts the acrylic a little bit and it creates a perma bond, which is pretty strong. Okay. So I'm going to, for the sake of time, add some glue here. Like I mentioned, it will melt your acrylic yarn just a little bit. Be careful with your hands, right? So put a good amount there. Now, if you're making these for really little kids, I probably would omit the safety eyes altogether, and I would sew that body onto the feet. Okay, so go ahead and secure it, push it down that way. Okay, be careful so that the glue doesn't come through. It's hot. Okay, I like to push it on the table like that to kind of get it to secure, right? To get it nice and bonded. All right, and that is the body. All right, now we're ready to attach our antennae. Okay, so now we need to attach the antennae. Now, you need to kind of determine where they're gonna go, but what ends up happening is that you won't be able to poke those through, right? You can see it's pretty dense here. And so that's going to be a problem. So what I do is I take a pencil, right? So lightly sharpened, right? And I am going to push it through the work. And I want you to be able to see a little better what I'm doing, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm pushing down the stuffing and I'm creating a small little hole or stretching out some of that yarn. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and add my hot glue, okay, just to the small or bottom portion of that pipe cleaner. You can see the hole right there, and I'm going to slide that in there just like that. Now again, you don't want to add too much glue, because if you do that, right, then you're going to have a mess on the top of your love bug. So again, the nice thing with the pencil, right, is that you can also kind of adjust and look to see to make sure that your antennae are going to go into the right place. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to add glue to the bottom portion of my pipe cleaner like this. Okay. now I'm going to remove my pencil and I'm going to slide that in there so you can see already how it's bending. So you've got to be very careful when you go to put it in there. So now that they're both in there, kind of fluff up the yarn around it to make sure that it's all stuck together, just like that. Yay, you have a love bug. Right? You can add some more embellishments and do lots of other things, but you know, again, lots of different color matches and opportunities, right, for creativity. You know, different sizes, and everyone comes out just a little bit different. So that's that worsted weight yarn. If you have my F-bomb pattern, then that is very similar, so you'll be familiar with that shape. Okay, but again, lots of different options, and there's lots of things that you can do with these. If you're interested in my Etsy shop, I have the pattern listed for the big love bug, right? And so this is the first one I made. So that is that one there. And then there's also directions for this love bug, right? So the bow on the top now becomes the bow tie on the bottom, and you can make these on your larger knitting machines. All right, there's your love bug family. Right? Thanks so much for watching.